Hi, and welcome to a celebration of Nantucket Sound, our monthly webinar series. Thanks for joining us tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Audra Parker. I'm the CEO of the Alliance to Protect Nantucket Sound. We are a nonprofit environmental organization based on Cape Cod in Hyannis, and our mission is the permanent protection and preservation of Nantucket Sound, the body of water that lies between Cape Cod and the islands of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. And this is especially important because Nantucket Sound has a unique situation with a split jurisdiction between waters that are controlled by the state of Massachusetts and waters that are under federal jurisdiction. And if you look at this chart that's up on the screen, you can see that the state waters extend 3 miles from the shorelines of the Cape and Islands, while federal waters are in the center of Nantucket Sound. And the state waters are protected under a law called the Massachusetts Ocean Sanctuaries Act, while the federal waters in the middle are and remain open to development. So to address this, the Alliance has been seeking a national designation for Nantucket Sound as a National Historic Landmark, which is the highest level of historic protection possible. And to give you examples, the entire island of Nantucket is a National Historic Landmark, as is Wesleyan Grove on Oak Bluffs on the Vineyard and the Kennedy Compound in Hyannisport. So National Historic Landmark designation would recognize Nantucket Sound as a single ecosystem, recognize its unique history, its value as a sacred site to the Wampanoag people, and also protect traditional uses like fishing and recreation. And to that end, we've built a very large and diverse coalition of support. We have almost 100 stakeholder groups representing tens of thousands of individuals that include towns across the Cape and Islands, historic preservation groups, chambers of commerce, fishing groups, and many, many others. So basically, that's my introduction. Again, seeking National Historic Landmark designation for Nantucket Sound. We are trying to spread awareness of the need for that protection and just the very many values that make Nantucket Sound so unique with this webinar series. So I'm excited tonight to welcome Kristen Smith, who will be discussing white sharks. And she works for the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy in Chatham, where she is the outreach and social media manager. A few words about Kristen. Hi, Kristen. She attended Coastal Carolina University, where she received her degree in marine science and aided in her university shark research program. At the Conservancy, she manages educational programs, community outreach efforts, the college internship program, and social media campaigns. She's been featured on the Today Show, Channel 7 News Boston, and Good Morning America. And tonight she's going to show us some of the ongoing white shark research projects being conducted by the Conservancy and how that research impacts conservation, public safety, and she'll also discuss the history and future of white sharks in our waters. So that's a lot of material to cover.
Yes, I'll try to be as brief but informational as possible.
Perfect. Well, I look forward to learning all about this. And after your I'm going to get off, and after your presentation, I will come back and take questions from our participants tonight. So I will see you in a bit, and I look forward to it. And thank you again.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, everyone, I'm just going to share my screen to get started, just so we can get moving and grooving here. Alrighty, so let's get started. Again, thank you everyone for attending the talk this evening. I know you could all be doing something else, but you're here listening to me. So thank you. I do appreciate that. Again, my name is Kristen Smith. I'm the outreach and social media manager for the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. So yes, as Audra said, I'm here to talk to you all essentially about the who, what, where, when, why of white sharks or great white sharks here off of Cape Cod and our work that we are doing with this species here. So if you're not familiar with us at the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy, we are a nonprofit. and we were founded in 2012, where our mission is to support scientific research, improve public safety, and as well as to educate our communities here on Cape Cod and throughout the New England region about this re-emerging shark species here. And for us, as I said, we were founded in 2012 and started officially fundraising for that research a year later. And so for us, we work with a scientist who you probably are familiar with, which is Dr. Greg Skomel. And we were originally founded to support his work, and we still support his work till this day. And how we were started is that our CEO and our co-founder, Cynthia Wigren, was attending a talk that Greg was doing. And afterwards, she asked him, how can she help? How can our local communities help? And he joked and said, you can start a nonprofit. And then the state would be able to accept funds for research in that way. And Cynthia went home and Googled, how do I start a nonprofit? And here we are. So, really quick and simple story for how now we've been able to collaborate with Dr. Greg Skomel now for over the past decade. But before we get into current collaborations and our current work, I do think it is important to talk about the history of great white sharks within this region, because it is important to know why we actually are doing what we're doing in this current day here of 2025. So this photo here might look familiar to you all if you've been keeping up with shark news now over the last 20 years. That this is Dr. Greg Skomel with a great white shark behind him. And it's not really in a typical ocean environment that you would see a white shark, right? And this just had the anniversary of this event just passed over the last 2 weeks or so, where this is white shark. Her name is Gretel, and she was caught in a salt pond down off of Falmouth. She made her way through the intercoastal waterways and was in this area for almost 2 weeks. But state scientists like Dr. Greg Skomel and John Chisholm and others were able to observe this shark and was able to eventually get her out into the open water areas. And so this is the first, if you're looking at ticks on a timeline in 2004. This is the very first time a great white shark was tagged here in the state of Massachusetts. But unfortunately, this tag did fall off almost immediately. Have to remember, this is the first great white shark Dr. Greg Skomel has ever tagged at this point as well. So this tag did fall off, but it's an important milestone when looking at the history of great whites here, because between 2004 and up until 2010, more and more rumblings of sightings were happening of great white sharks along the Massachusetts coastline. And that's when in 2010, Dr. Greg Skomel started the state-led research of great white sharks here. And then we were then founded in 2012. But as Greg was starting up research, as well as us being able to be started as a nonprofit, there was a lot of questions about asking, well, why great whites? Why do we want to protect them? Why are they important? Why are they being seen here off of our coastline? And we have to go back to almost 50 years and you can even consider more about why we are actually doing the work that we are doing here along this coastline and in the New England region. Historically, great white sharks have always been within this area. They have a natural historic range from Canada all the way into the Gulf. So they make really long swims year in and year out. But historically, what has happened is that a lot of ocean species like great white sharks and other shark species were overfished 50, 40, 30 years ago before these fishing regulations started to come into place in the late 90s. And because of this, great white shark populations declined in the Northwest Atlantic. As I said, we see this due to just the non-fishing regulations, because no one knew shark and fisheries science back then. No one was studying that. No one knew how population regrowth worked back then. And so because of that, it's estimated that almost up to 80% of the great white shark populations within the Northwest Atlantic were actually fished out during this part of time. And this is again due to that fishery regulation not being there, the popularization of sport fishing for great white sharks, but also due to that fear of sharks because of Jaws. You know, we celebrated that 50th anniversary of Jaws this year. But like I said, we know historically that this species has been here. But due to protections on a federal level in 1997 and a state level here in Massachusetts in 2005, we're now seeing these conservation effects really come into this success 30 plus years later of these conservation initiatives truly happening. But like I said, historically, sharks have always been here along our coastline. We have the anecdotal evidence sprinkled throughout history. We see this from Henry David Thoreau's book, Cape Cod from 1865, where he talks about people not bathing on the Atlantic side of the Cape due to the undertow and the rumor of sharks. We also see this in our photograph evidence as well. This is a photo of fishers bringing in a white shark that was caught in a ware net in 1948. So again, we have this plethora of evidence of this species always being here. We also see this due to just scientific records as well. So this is a paper of sightings that was curated from 1985, and we see that these green dots is where people were seeing great white sharks back then. And so we can see that where we are in the Northeast and in the New England area, that green gets really thick, right? So we, like I said, we're just driving it home that historically great whites have always been here along the Cape, the islands going up into Maine and into Canada, but as well as going down south as well. But that also curtails this rich history we have of marine mammals here off of our coastline too. And that is something that we see as those protections of sharks. We also saw protections of marine mammals like seals and whale species through the Marine Mammal Protection Act in 1972. So even though their prey items were protected a lot earlier than sharks, that we now see this conservation success story of marine mammals like seals and humpback whales and other marine mammal species with coinciding with their prey like sharks. So now we have this area where sharks and seals are coming back where historically they have always been. And now we have scientists like us, other groups like the Center for Coastal Studies that are studying these marine mammals here along our coastline, where now these groups have these predictable access to marine mammals, to great white sharks every summer and fall to be able to learn about this species here. And so, which brings us to our modern time of where we are able now to effectively do great white shark work. So for our work, it is unique. If you're not familiar with who we are, this will be new to you. If you have been following us since day one or for a while, you do know already that we utilize a spotter pilot to find these sharks here off of our coastline. So there's no baiting or chumming or fishing for these animals. And this is due because we are working in these inshore areas. So we utilize a spotter pilot. His name is Wayne Davis to be able to find these sharks for us. And it's essentially a really hard game of Marco Polo between Shark, our research boat, and Wayne flying to be able to direct us to these freely swimming sharks for us then to be able to take video footage and then eventually apply tags on to these individual sharks as well. So without Wayne, our work would be very hard to do. Yes, we use drones and we can utilize drones, but having a spotter pilot is truly key to be able to find these sharks here along our coastline. Which brings us then into our projects. So one of the projects that we have continuously done now over the last decade is population monitoring. And this is specifically monitoring the population along here on the Cape, but also that larger population from Canada into the Gulf. It's a common misconception that people think these are Cape Cod's great white sharks, but they are not. They are part of that larger population that we see here within the Northwest Atlantic. And how we can monitor that population is by taking video footage. So we simply put a GoPro on a painter's pole, we stick it in the water and let that shark swim by and do its thing. And we get video footage of the left and the right side, just how we have scars on one side of our body and not the other. As you can see in this video, we see that with sharks as well. What you're viewing is white shark salty. It's a shark that we have seen here quite often here along our coastline, and we have years worth of video footage just from this particular shark. So as you can see here, you might already see some of those scars around Salty's body. Those are seal scratches. So we do see sharks with injuries from seals. We do see them with injuries from other sharks and boat strikes as well. But also we see them that they have no injuries whatsoever. But after we take this type of video, our research team goes back and then compares this video to the others that have been taken now over the past decade. And we are able then to confirm if this is a shark we have seen before or not seen before. And you might be thinking, well, Kristen, why can't we just look at the tag? Not every great white shark that we come across is tagged, let alone we might not be able to place a tag on it. And we'll get into why in a little bit. We always start with video footage first. So when looking at the video, then we look at their gill slits, we look at their fins, we look at their counter shading or where the white meets the gray. And these are all different types of ways that we can identify one shark from the over 700 we have been able to identify so far. Now, I do like to say that those all 700 have not been just here off of Cape Cod. Some sharks have been sent in, some videos of sharks, I should say, have been sent in by divers or boaters all up and down the East Coast that share us their video of white sharks. And then if it's one we haven't seen before, that gets added into our catalog. So for anyone, if you are seeing great whites here along with the coastline, please send it to us so we can see if it's one we have identified or not. If it's one we haven't, you get to name it. So it's a really great way for us to see what other people are seeing out there. We also have collaborations up in Maine and as well as Canada for those researchers that are researching great whites off of their coastline as well. So they're sending us their video and photographs for us to be able to add it into the catalog. So we do host the catalog for the Northwest Atlantic population of great white sharks. And as I said, so far we've been able to identify over 700 just by looking at video footage. And as I said, we do this then to compare sharks all up and down the East Coast. I like to share this little story because we got a video from a diver off of Jupiter, Florida in 2019, compared that video to what we have up here, and we saw that it is white shark salty off of Florida. So then it helps us then confirm where sharks that we are seeing up here are going down south if they are not tagged, and as way then to have the public be involved in this great white shark work that is happening here off of our coastline. With this type of video ID work, this went toward a population study that was conducted from 2015 till 2019, being able to look at this data, and who is our senior scientist, Dr. Megan Winton. This was part of her PhD work, that being able then to compute a population model of what was the visiting number of great white sharks within that 5-year study. And we do know because of that study that in those 5 years, 800 great whites were estimated to be visiting the Cape during that study. Now, if you'd be thinking, what is the population now? We do not know. And there's currently not an estimate for that full population of great whites within the Northwest Atlantic. But after we take video footage, we do want to tag them so we can continue to monitor their movements and habitat use along Cape Cod and as well as beyond. And just as we are being able to take video footage of them as they are freely swimming, we are also tagging them as they are freely swimming. So we essentially have to sneak up behind the shark. There's Dr. Greg Scommel out on the pulpit holding the tagging pole. And as then we place that tag on the shark as the shark continues to swim on by. This is an adaptive way of harpooning. Greg actually learned how to tag great whites with a tuna harpooner. This way, then we are able to have easy access to the individual, applying tags without being able to capture it. This is why this type of way of tagging is used here along the coastline. The primary tag that we do utilize is called an acoustic tag, which is the photo you see on the far left of your screen. The tag itself is that white cylinder that is toward the top of the photo. And then that tag has a tether, and that tether has an intermuscular dart, which you see at the bottom. Here, I'll circle it. Intermuscular dart. So this is what actually is going into the muscle of the shark, where then the tag itself is hanging off and outside of the body. Now, if you have been boating around here at the Cape, you have probably seen the acoustic receiver array in some shape or form. The receiver itself is this black canister that I'm going to star that's in the middle of the photo. These acoustic receivers are placed on these yellow buoys that are then around the Cape. They are in the Sound, they are in the Bay, they're on the outer arm around the islands, the South Shore, the North Shore, up toward Boston, and with collaborations within the region. There's arrays in New Hampshire, Maine, and Canada as well. And this is then how we are looking at local movements of what is the tagged population. There's a little over 325 sharks that are currently tagged. So there are more identified than they are tagged. This type of system does not come to us in real time. So we do not know when these tagged individuals are being detected on these receivers. These are all cataloging and housing that data when they are in the water. So they are placed in the water around May, June, and they are kept in until about January, or weather permitting, of course. And as I said, we do not know any of the data until these are pulled out of the water, and all that data then is compiled along the outer arm of the Cape and also the town of Marshfield. And there's also some towns off of Maine that have what are called real-time acoustic receivers. So just as what we were just looking at, just in the name, we get that notification in real time. So it works, it has solar panels on top. There is a SIM card inside of it. So anytime a tagged great white swims by one of these real-time acoustic receivers, so say it's off of the drive-on beach off of Nauset. So then the beach manager would get that text message that a tagged shark swam by. Our research team also gets that text message as well. So as the technology is always improving year in and year out, we are able to utilize more of these types of innovative shark buoys for us to be able to see where the tagged individuals are going. These are also integrated onto our app Sharktivity as well. So if you do have our app, you have probably seen the locations of the real times. Those buoys are either purple when a white shark has been detected, or yellow or orange if one has not been detected within the last hour or so. If you are interested in looking at what the last 10 plus years of acoustic detections are, we do have that publicly available over on our website via the White Shark Logbook. This is also where we house that catalog as well. So you can also go look at our catalog of sharks, and you can go back till 2010 to look at how that acoustic array has expanded over the last 10 years. This is important to note. This is all historic data. This is not in real time. So if you go on this website later tonight, you're not going to see 2025 data. All that gets compiled at the end of the season when all of them get pulled, and our team looks at all the data, computes it all, and has to put millions of data points up onto the website for everyone to be able to see it. So I'd just like to point that out. If you're interested in viewing this and looking at it, I will just give you the lay of the land and, describe what you are actually looking at. So every circle that you see is a location of an acoustic receiver. The larger the circle means more detections, not necessarily more sharks. So I do like to say that. You can click each circle and see when the first date of a shark detection was versus the last date of the shark detection when it was pulled. You can actually then go into it by receiver and see what individual sharks have been detected. You can view this by, say, you're following white shark salty. You can see where salty has been detected. So since you are all very interested in the Nantucket Sound, I know you are probably thinking, why is there one receiver there? If you go back few years, there have been two receivers in the Sound year in and year out. They have been moved around throughout the years as well. And when you are looking at white shark activity in the Sound, historically, just through what has been detected on the receivers, either zero tag sharks have been detected year in and year out, or one or two of them. And they're being detected at the beginning of the season as sharks are coming into this area, or at the end of the season when they are leaving. So when I say beginning of the season, June, July, end of the season, October. During then the middle, like the peak time of where we like to enjoy the water in recreational ways. Historically, no tagged white sharks have been detected, but that doesn't necessarily mean untagged ones have been within this area. Historically, there is not a lot of knowledge of white sharks within the Sound. I was saying yesterday when I was on our prep meeting that I was looking back at papers from 20, 30 years ago, and it's there's not a lot of data of white sharks within the Nantucket Sound. But it is something, as this population is emerging and more tags are being placed out. Hopefully, those dots can start to be connected. But just looking at current data that has been collected over the past 10 years, what has been detected within the sound has been at the beginning of the season and at the very end of the season. So, what we are then able to do with this type of data, this is what can be shared with towns for public safety initiatives. Because we are a nonprofit, we do not have jurisdiction of what can or what cannot be done. So, we can only share data with towns and give town managers, Cape Cod National Seashore, updates as needed about what we are viewing and what data we are compiling year in and year out. We also, for us, looking at different types of research projects for us this year, new for us is looking at their behavior and habitat use in Cape Cod Bay. As this population is reestablishing itself in the region, more and more sightings of white sharks are being in the bay. And if we look back at our acoustic data, we do know that white sharks are in the bay and hanging out in the bay. We know that they are feeding on the striper that are there and other fish. So our team has been able to start going out into the bay this season to be able to tag white sharks there. This year, we've tagged 17 in the bay, which was quite exciting for the team. But we were also able to deploy camera tags onto individuals as well. So these types of tags, their team has been utilized now for over 5 years. Then we've been putting them on white shark seen on the outer arm. We've been using them with collaborations down south as well, off of South Carolina. But we were really wanting to put these on white sharks in the bay to see what they are doing there as well. When our team is on a great white, we have a quick glimpse into their life, 5, 10 minutes, maybe even less than 5 minutes before they go on their merry way. So these types of tags is pretty much putting an iPhone, a smartphone on a shark and letting it do its thing. So it's called a camera tag because there's a camera on it. It would be right here on the end. Inside, there are devices that record water depth, water temperature, and shark acceleration. So we're getting a really interesting scope of what the shark is doing. It is only designed, though, to stay on for about 36 hours. This device here, as it hits the water, does start to dissolve over time. It will then pop off. It floats to the surface. These antennas connect to a satellite, gives us a general location of where it is. And then our team has to go and retrieve this tag to get all the video footage and all the data that it has collected. Now, so far, unfortunately, I can't share any of the video that was taken this year. Nothing too exciting was actually seen on it, but I can show some exciting video that we have taken in the past. So for us, what you're gonna see is a video of white shark Snoop Dogg. And Snoop Dogg is a shark that our team tagged. Ooh, I should remember. The date just went right out of my head. You'll have to check the logbook and quote me on when Snoop Dogg was tagged. But Snoop Dogg was named Snoop Dogg because, hold on, my computer is freezing up on me. So give me 1 second. And I apologize if you hear music. Our neighbors are getting a little loud outside. Do, do, do. There we go. Okay, so now we can actually watch the video of Snoop Dogg. So Snoop Dogg is named Snoop Dogg because we were able to watch him feed on 3 spiny dogfish, or smaller species of sharks that we see here off of the coastline. And so this was quite interesting. This is a 14-foot great white that swam pretty far offshore to feed on spiny dogfish when he could have stayed inshore and ate a nice big seal instead. So this was something that our team was quite excited to see. Historically, we've known that great whites eat other species of sharks, but this is the first time it was ever captured on film, great whites feeding on spiny dogfish anywhere within the world. So quite exciting things that we are able to capture using this type of technology. We've also seen them be really curious and being able to go down to the bottom of the ocean floor and flip over some sea stars and then jet up to the surface and fully breach or jump out of the water. We've not seen them have a successful predation on seals, but we have seen them do these other types of interesting things along the way. Other research that we are focused on, as I kind of tease there with the camera tags, is that white shark behavior and habitat use within the southeast. So we know that white sharks do make these movements year in and year out of going from Massachusetts up to Canada, up to Nova Scotia, making their way back down south and then into the Gulf. And we know by looking at acoustic data that they do hang out down south all year round with our collaborators off of Key West. We know that tagged white sharks we've tagged up here were detected on acoustic receivers off of Key West every month last year, which is incredibly exciting. But we've also then know that they do spend a lot of their time down south as well. So we linked up with a charter captain named Captain Chip with Outcast Sport Fishing out of Hilton Head, South Carolina, where then during the winter we outfit him with tags when we can. Our senior scientist goes down and helps him be able to tag great whites down south. And mushroom is a perfect example of that. That is a shark that we identified here via video footage in 2017, but it was actually a shark that Chip tagged for us in March of 2021. So these sharks are not just being seen here, they are being seen in other areas along the East Coast as well. And this is one that I like to bring up because, again, if you've been following us, you've probably been familiar with white shark Libeth, which is one that Chip was able to tag for us in 2023. She was, again, a 14-foot female great white shark, and she was outfitted with a few different tags. So she was outfitted with another version of the camera tag that you see here, the orange tag. She also has what's called a spot tag or a satellite tag on the top of her dorsal fin. A spot tag is a tag that we actually cannot utilize or use up here because you do have to capture the shark to put it on. And as Chip has the capability to be able to fish for these sharks down off of Hilton Head, and then he's able to apply these tags on for us. And then on the other side of her fin, she does have an acoustic tag as well. And scientists and research groups like us and others have been putting spot tags on sharks like great whites for many, many years. If you've been following shark science for a while, you probably remember white sharks Mary Lee and Catherine if you had the OSearch app. And these are the types of tags that they had along their a body. So how this tag works is that anytime the dorsal fin breaks the surface of the water for about 90 seconds, that tag connects to a satellite and then sends us a ping or a location of where that shark is. And for Libeth, she gave us a really incredible track line. You can see her exact track line on Sharktivity, our app where you can then zoom in and really see all the fine details and such, but unfortunately to fit it on the screen, I can't do that. But she was tagged off of South Carolina in December of 2023. And then in this time, she was able to go all the way around Florida and into the Gulf, off of Mississippi, off of Texas, off of Mexico, which meant she was the furthest. She was a great white shark that was tracked in the Gulf furthest west ever. So that was very exciting. And then she was able to continue her way from almost the same path and then jetted up north, bypassed Cape Cod, and spent the rest of her summer and fall in Canada. And then her tag battery did die in October of 2024. These tags should last about 5 years. She was so active that her tag battery died incredibly fast in less than a year. So unfortunately, we wish that this tag battery still was working on her because she was giving our team incredible amount of data. There was also a very incredible outreach tool and an educational tool because she was being seen off of Texas, off of Mississippi, off of Mexico. We had news sites reaching out to us from those regions wanting to know more about great white sharks, the conservation success story of great whites within the Northwest Atlantic. So it's a really exciting time for people then to learn about this fish here as well. And so it is also great because she did have an acoustic tag in November last year. She was detected in Cape Cod Bay. So what you're seeing is a really fast graphic. All those circles is an acoustic receiver, and it's how she was utilizing the bay, going back and forth, being able to view, being able to swim there before she continued her way south. So I'll play it again. She kind of made her path back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until she made her way out around, and then we can assume back down south. So she has not been detected on any of the real-time acoustic receivers yet. So we're interested to see if this November she says hello to us on the Cape like she did last year. And as we start to wrap up, looking more on the public safety side, yes, we're utilizing this work to further learn more about this species since a lot is still to be discovered about their movements and their habits here within the Northwest Atlantic, but utilizing these types of tags where we are able to learn about what water depth they are being in is again also helping us being able to share that type of data with beach managers in the Cape Cod National Seashore. So for us, we do also utilize tags that just do measure water depth and water temperature. And we know with a study we released in 2021 that here off of the Outer Cape specifically, that white sharks are spending 47% of their time in 15 feet of water or less. So that's a significant stat to know if you are an offshore swimmer, a surfer, just using the water in any type of recreational way. But it's really important for a beach manager to know that as well. So that type of study was important for us to be able to learn more about these habits. And we know they're going into these inshore waters, not because of us, not because they are looking for us, but they're looking for their food sources like seals and also other fish as well. When they are going offshore, we can assume they are still feeding because we have that video evidence of Snoop Dogg being able to feed on spiny dogfish. They could be going offshore for resting as well. Those are still things that will be discovered soon enough, but we know that they're spending this time inshore because they are actively feeding and trying to get their next meal. This is why that having those shark smart tips along the coastline is so important, especially along the outer arm of the Cape, where I'm sure you all know that at high tide, it can drop off really fast. And that's something for me that I'm sure if you can tell from my accent, I am not from Massachusetts. I'm from Pennsylvania. And so I spent my time in New Jersey a lot. And those beaches at high tide are very much different than what they are here along the Cape. And that we all now know that at high tide at Nauset Beach, you can take a few steps in and you are at your shoulders, right? And because of that, marine life like sharks, seals, fish can hug the coastline really close. And so this is why I like to share this photo because it just shows how fast it drops off because our boat is right off the beach and they're in about 10 feet of water right there. So it is important that when we are entering the water, if it is along the outer arm or any other saltwater environment, is to know your risk when entering the water. This is why signage has been increased and more robust around the beaches here along the Cape and then the South Shore. And something then how we can then help to contribute to these signs is showing when peak activity is based on tagging data. So right now in October, we are in peak activity for white sharks here along our coastline. And that's something that could be a surprise stat to some of you. It was to me when I first moved here. And so this is when, though, we know that we don't have lifeguards at our beaches, but this is peak activity. So it is still important that if you choose to enter the water to still be shark smart, follow signage and flags. If there are seals, to stay away from seals because they are a wild animal as well. But if a seal is near, potentially that a shark could be in that area trying to get its next meal as well. Purple shark flags are flown as that constant reminder to everyone that hazardous marine life is in the area. Purple is that international color that stands for hazardous marine life. That's why it was chosen. So many people that visit us here on the Cape would know what that flag means. We also have our app Sharktivity, which is an outreach tool for people to see where sharks are being spotted by our research team, our ecotourism team, but also you all as well. So if you are seeing sharks when you're out on the water, please put your sightings on the app. If you do have a photo and you can let us see, John Chisholm, who helps us maintain this app, he will then be able to confirm if it's a great white or not, and that will go in as a confirmed or an unconfirmed sighting. Our real-time receivers are integrated onto the app as well. Our teams, if we are near a public beach, will put out shark alerts as well. So it's an interesting tool then for people to be able to use. New for us for this, we just released this the other week. We have what's called Sharktivity Pro. It's only for Apple users right now. We're working on it for for Android, but Sharktivity Pro is a paid version of the app. But what you're seeing on the screen will always be free to people. We would never want people to pay for alerts or anything like that. But if you want extra stuff, if you want to help, then continue to support us and Sharktivity. There is now a paid version of the app. When our research team is out, they'll be putting updates right there for you to see with videos and photos and a quick synopsis of what we're seeing out on the water. You'll have customized notifications. If you like to have widgets on your phone, there's now widget options through Sharktivity Pro. And as we are expanding the app, more things will be added on for the pro side as well. So as we though do wrap up today, like I said, I'm going to try to keep it brief and concise as possible. And if you need me to deep dive into anything specific, I will happily do so as we move into the questions portion of this evening. But I just want to say thank you. As I did mention earlier, right, I'm not from this area. I am from Pennsylvania, and being able to move here now almost 10 years ago, having this vast and unique marine life that we have here off of our coastline is something quite special, right? That we have a presence of great whites, these apex predators, which is a sign of ecosystem health. We have the resurgence of seals. We have humpback whales here and mola mola and sea turtles. And it's really incredible that we have this beautiful, vast marine life here that we get to call home, we get to enjoy, that we get to learn about here year in and year out as well. And so as we do wrap up, if you're interested in ways that you can help us, you can scan the QR code. That's just going to bring you to our link tree, which again brings us to our website and current things we have going on. I always like to say spreading the word about us and just being more informed is the best way to help, right? There's a lot of misconceptions about sharks and specifically great whites. So just being more informed is one of the best ways that you can help. And you can visit us on the Shark Center here in Chatham. This weekend is our last weekend of general admission. So come on in and say hi. We're open tomorrow, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 to 4. And then we also have some special events that are happening this month as well. So then next Saturday, so in 2 Saturdays, we are just open for a fantastic pumpkin decorating. Then we also will be open that Saturday of Halloween for trick-or-treating as well. So you can sign up and learn more about that on our website. If you are a Massachusetts resident, we do have the White Shark Plate program as well. If you're interested in volunteering, we have volunteer opportunities. If you have the means to donate, of course, we will accept donations, and as well as downloading Sharktivity. So that is all I have for you this evening. I am happy to answer any questions that you all might have, and I will kick it to you, Audra, because you are going to help.
I will. I'll ask the question. So that was great. I learned a lot. Appreciate it. I had a question. I just was curious what first sparked your interest in this field? How did you get involved in it?
Ooh, so because I think it was just my formidable years in New Jersey. I spent a lot of time. My grandfather had a beach house down there. Uh, Sorry, my laptop's about to die. I got to plug it in. And then spending time with him on the boat and my family. I always just had a natural interest with sharks too. So I think it was just something that never faded away. And then
Okay.
I went to college for it, and here I am.
And here you are. Okay. Well,
Yep.
thanks for that. All right. So, first question I have is from Ruth, and she is asking, hold on, let me just get up here. She is asking, where are the white shark nurseries?
Ooh, so we don't know. No one has ever seen a great white shark mate or give birth globally. So we can assume within the Northwest Atlantic that due to anecdotal evidence over decades that fishers and people have seen babies or what's called young of the year great whites off of Long Island and in the Montauk area. But it now, as this population is reestablishing, more and more of those smaller juvenile great whites are being seen off of the southern side of Martha's Vineyard. So there are some scientists that think that maybe it's expanding, but time will tell for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question is, how do the tags affect the sharks?
So with the acoustic tags specifically, there are no effects to them. That acoustic frequency isn't affecting their hearing or anything like that. It's at a lower frequency. And then since we're placing them in the muscle, it can naturally work its way out since sharks are constantly moving. So we have seen sharks that have come back that tags are not there anymore. They can be just naturally worked out of the body. We can assume they can be fall out with mating and things like that. As the spot tags, since they are put in at the top of the dorsal fin, a lot of scientists have switched to putting those on more adult, full-grown great whites, so growth doesn't affect that as at all for it. So that's why also when we tag them, they are tagged close to the surface of the water for accuracy, so they're not being placed in the wrong spot. So they have to be at least 2 feet or closer. If they're deeper, we won't tag them just because of making sure the tag's going in the body the correct way, or
Okay.
say that the intermuscular dart going into the body.
Catherine has a funny
Mhm.
question. With all your knowledge of sharks and all your studies, do you swim in the waters around the Cape?
I do go in the water, yes. But I've never been a surfer or something like that. So like you won't catch me surfing, but that's because I've never surfed in my life. But yes, I do. Like I go to Nauset Beach. I go to Race Point. I took my family to Marconi this summer. So yes, I do go in the waters, but I do follow the Shark Smart tips. I'm not someone that is gonna go in way offshore in 15 feet of water. I'm gonna stay waist deep. I'm not one to go far offshore, but I'm just following the protocols that are set in place by the seashore.
Swimming cautiously.
Yes.
Okay. Peter says, great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
And then another question from Ruth. Is it true that sharks don't develop cancer?
That's a great question. And there will be some scientists that say yes, some that say no. They are incredible healers. So we have seen sharks. I don't have it in this presentation, but if you go on the logbook and look at white shark, the rock, that's one that we've seen that when we first came across him, his dorsal fin had a cut going down it, probably from a boat strike, and it was almost flopped over. But then we saw him the next year, and it like stitched itself back up,
Wow.
like it healed. And we have seen sharks that have these really gnarly injuries from other sharks or if it's from boat strikes, and we see them months to a year or more later and they're healed. So we do know that they are incredible healers. But for cancer, we don't know.
How long do sharks live on average?
That's species specific, but for great whites, it's about 70 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. David says, many thanks for another wonderful webinar. Does Kristen have any data showing great whites traveling from Buzzards Bay through the Cape Cod Canal into Cape Cod Bay?
No, but many years ago before I got here, there was on the acoustic array a shark that was detected from one of the buoys or say the receivers in the bay, and then later that day was detected in Buzzards Bay. So like from Cape Cod Bay to Buzzards Bay. So that shark would have to be moving to go all the way around. So we can assume it went through the canal. I mean, why not? We see whales go through the canal, right? So it could absolutely happen. But it hasn't been something it's definitely a rare occurrence. But the water is salt.
How fast do they travel?
So they can swim up to about 80 miles a day at normal cruising speed, 5 to 10 miles an hour, even slower. As they're actively going after prey, they can do speeds of up to 30 miles an hour.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
An anonymous attendee says, and it's a bit similar to one of the other questions, but do the tags bother the sharks? Can they feel them after the initial tagging, especially the camera one? It seems big.
Yeah, so we can assume that they do feel them as they go into the body. It's a quick pinch, just like how we get an ear piercing, right? You feel it go in, but
Or a
then
vaccine. Yeah.
yeah, or yes, or just like a vaccine. But afterwards, as scientists can assume that they are not feeling it. With then the camera tag itself, I didn't say it within the presentation. There's a lot of knowledge up here, and you got to think of what to put out. So I apologize for that. The camera tag, because it only stays on for about 36 hours, it's not affecting the movements at all. It does look big, but when you're putting it on a 14-foot great white, it's not hindering anything. So no, they're not affecting
Okay.
that for them.
Um,
Yeah.
Thomas says, very interesting presentation. Thank you. 9 years ago, I did supply video to your group of a white shark
Oh,
in Cape Cod Bay, which you confirmed was an untagged shark. That said, and knowing the importance of video to your research, do any of your beacons have the ability to take video?
I wish that would make things so much easier. But
Well, there you
no,
go.
they
There's a
don't. They
technology
don't.
opportunity.
Yeah. If you do go on, that's a question we get a lot actually. So it's nice that I'm happy that you brought it up. So if you go on the Sharktivity app, sorry, I'm just pulling it up on my phone right now. And if you would hit one of the real-time receivers, a lot of people think we have cameras on it because when it says that like white shark Indo was detected, it shows an underwater photo, but that's just when we have like that's just what
Stock
is.
image.
Yes, that's the stock image we have a
Yep.
software to put on there. So no, they're not taking photos. That'd be cool though. Maybe one day we'll have that.
Right? An opportunity for somebody, some developer out there. Okay,
Yeah.
Brennan asks if does AWSC have any remote internship opportunities at all?
Nothing remote. We do offer summer internships for college students or recently graduated students. We do provide housing for them, but nothing remote as of now. But we do have the college one during the summer.
Okay, we'll look for a resume from Brennan then in the future. So we'll see. Okay. Kate asks if wind turbines affect shark hearing or behavior.
Great question. Short answer, we don't know.
Okay.
We don't know because of where we're doing our work and wind turbines being offshore that they are, and we're seeing them, inshore. That's just something that we don't know. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Uh, Tom asks, do you find many dead sharks on shore? Where do
Mhm.
you take their remains for study, if so?
It's rare for us to have white sharks wash up dead. We did have one wash up last October. And for that, it was washed up along Nauset Beach. So they sometimes it's done right on the beach. Sometimes this one it was taken to the Orleans dump and we did the necropsy there. And so then what happens is that it's essentially a hours long dissection on it where we're taking measurements, photographs, and we work with the Apex Predator program off of the NOAA Narragansett lab with Dr. Michelle Pazzarotti. So she'll come in as well. And so you're taking measurements of how thick the livers are, how long it is. You're any measurement you can think of for an organ, for a spine, for whatever it is, it's being taken and weighed, and then they all get put into vials or baggies and then sent off to researchers that are maybe like studying specifically that type of thing within a shark's body. Or then they get sent back to her lab for to be frozen for like later usage and things like that. So
Okay.
yeah.
Another compliment. Ruth says, thanks for a
Thank
great
you.
presentation. Thank you. Catherine asks, do white sharks hang around Nantucket?
So the island of Nantucket, they can. There is a historic acoustic data that has tagged white sharks around the island, but it is not in the high activity that we see along the outer Cape. So just because it's not as high activity doesn't mean they're not there. They definitely are. And that's something that I didn't even discuss in this presentation. We this summer we released a study of dusky sharks feeding on seals off of Nantucket, and that's the first time it's ever been seen. And no one thought that duskies preyed on seals, and so our team saw that happen a few years ago. Was able to compile some data and look at it, and we released a paper on that too. So it's something that it's not just great whites feeding on seals, and there is now dusky sharks that we're seeing feeding on them as well.
And are those types of papers on your website?
Yes, yes. If you
Okay.
go on our website under the science or research tab, there's a list of all our papers. So,
Okay. Just a couple more questions. Jim
absolutely.
asks, regarding great white movements, my understanding is the greatest concentration of great whites is around Guadalupe Island off the west coast, if I said that right, off the west coast of Mexico. Can you comment on that?
So it's hard to tell. Guadalupe Island closed for diving, for science, for anyone to go out there in 2022, 23. So no one's been able to go out there since then.
Why is
Um,
that?
No one really knows. The Mexican government just shut it down.
Very
There's
mysterious.
I won't dive into rumors or anything like that, but there's a lot of rumors. You can Google it. There's people that have their theories. But I won't divulge into those this evening.
Okay.
But
Give us something to do after the webinar.
but they do have a white shark population around that island. There have been scientists that have studied great white sharks there. I've gone cage diving there twice. There's operations that have gone there. But as my knowledge, I don't know if it's the largest concentration. Maybe I don't know, to be honest. That's not a stat that actually I
So
have
it's
lost.
not the largest, but it's the most secretive.
Probably. I mean, it
Right.
is
Prohibited.
it's far offshore. It's over 100 miles offshore.
Okay.
So it is a day and a half boat ride to get there.
Okay. And the last question is, what's the most unexpected thing that you've ever learned about sharks?
Ooh. Um, I think I'm gonna like speak for our research team here. I'm sure if I asked our senior scientist tomorrow, she's gonna be like, "Why'd you say that? It's this." But I think just how often they're offshore too. There's been historically science has thought that great whites were this more intercoastal species, but with having tags that allow us to measure water depth, we know that they're also swimming 3,000 feet deep or more. Why, we don't know. But, they can swim in incredibly shallow water, but they're also swimming in thousands of feet deep water. So, and they're, swimming in these cold waters off in Canada, but these warm waters in the Gulf. So the species can withstand like a very wide range of things.
They
So,
like variety, maybe,
yeah,
right?
spice of life.
Well, anyway, that's it for questions, Kristen. I really appreciate you joining us tonight, and it was very
Yeah.
informative, and thank you. And if
Yes,
anyone
thank you
wants
for
to reach
having
out
me.
to Kristen, I think you have the contact information. And if you want to learn more about our organization, you can reach me at Audra at Save Our Sound. So I'll just wrap up and let you know about the upcoming webinars. Oh, here's my contact information. If you want to know more, if you want to reach out to me because you forgot how to reach Kristen, Audra at saveoursound.org, and our website is saveoursound.org. And we have 2 upcoming webinars scheduled. January 22nd, the invasive green crab in Nantucket Sound and beyond with Carolyn Teppold from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. And in March, we have wildflowers and wildlife, sandplain grasslands and heathlands with Dr. Sarah Bois from the Linda Loring Nature Foundation on Nantucket. So again, thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you at a future webinar. Thanks again, Kristen, and have a good evening. Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone. Bye.